Hello and welcome all to the sixth episode of Forensic Friday of season 3. Our today's episode is based on face and tattoo matching for dead body identification. For that, we have a software called F2, which is a very unique face forensic image recognition suite, which is highly advanced, and it is AI based. Uh, it used AI based technology for basically face matching or tattoo matching or any further scene matching or full face matching or partial face matching. Okay, so basically, before I begin the session of F2, I'm just a small intro of our company, that is Forensics Guru. सो टॉकिंग अबाउट F2, जैसा मैंने बताया आपको, F2 जो है वो एक फेस का रिकॉग्निशन सॉफ्टवेयर है। इसका मतलब कि हमें अगर डेड बॉडी मिलती है, या जैसे का यहीं पर बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट होता है, या टेररिज्म अटैक होता है, सुसाइड बॉम्बिंग होती है, या जैसे आप देख रहे हैं अभी लगभग 2-3 दिन पहले ही टर्की और सीरिया में बहुत ही सीवियर एक अर्थक्वेक आया, जिसके कारण बहुत लोगों की डेथ हो गई। तो दैट टाइप ऑफ इंसिडेंट्स कैन बी ऑकर्ड एनी टाइम। उससे क्या होता है कि लोग मरते हैं। अब लोग मरते हैं तो लोगों को पहचानने के लिए बहुत डिफिकल्टी होती है, जो हमारी गवर्नमेंट होती है उसको, जो लॉ एनफोर्समेंट है उसको। उसके लिए क्या करते हैं, जैसे आप ये देख सकते हैं कि अभी थोड़े दिनों पहले ये टर्की का ही है स्क्रीनशॉट, कि यहाँ पर एक 7.8 मैग्नीट्यूड के साथ अर्थक्वेक आया, जिसके कारण थाउजेंड्स ऑफ लोग मर गए। क्वेक जो था वो 18 किलोमीटर तक उसका इम्पैक्ट रहा, जिसमें अभी फिलहाल तो है, जैसे डेड हो जाता है तो उसकी आई ऑब्वियसली क्लोज हो जाती है, उसकी आंखें क्लोज हो जाती है। तो विदाउट आईज उसको रिकॉग्नाइज करना, या फेस पे कोई मार्क है उसकी वजह से उसका जो कुछ वो नहीं आइडेंटिफाई कर पा रहे हम, उसके फेस पे हमें सिर्फ टैटू मिले हैं, तो टैटू के बेस पे हम उसकी आइडेंटिफिकेशन करेंगे। सो दीज काइंड ऑफ डिफिकल्टीज आर फेस्ड बाय आवर लॉ एनफोर्समेंट ऑफिसर्स। अब इसके लिए क्या करते हैं हम, जैसे एक और मैं आपको स्क्रीनशॉट दिखाता हूँ नेक्स्ट वाला। जैसे ये है कि 2008 में अहमदाबाद में जो बॉम्बिंग हुई थी, जिसमें 21 बॉम्ब ब्लास्ट हुए थे, जिसकी वजह से बहुत लोगों की जानें गई थी, बहुत लोग इंजर्ड हुए थे। तो उस वाले केस में भी ये था कि बच्चे हो, बड़े हो, या कोई भी हो, उनको पहचानने में बहुत मुश्किल हो रही थी गवर्नमेंट को। जैसे आप यहाँ देख सकते हैं कि डेड बॉडीज पड़ी हुई हैं ब्लड के अंदर। अब क्या है, ब्लड ब्लड लग जाता है फेस के ऊपर या बॉडी के ऊपर, तो वो भी इम्पैक्ट डालता है आइडेंटिफिकेशन में। जैसे बंदा ये बैंडेजेस में कवर्ड है, कोविड के केस में क्या हुआ कि आप मास्क पहन के घूमते थे तो सिर्फ आपकी आईज दिखती थी, या आप स्कार्फ पहन के घूमते थे तो आपका हाफ फेस ही विजिबल होता था। जैसे ये गर्ल का फेस है, नीचे आप देख सकते हैं कि ये बहुत ही मुश्किल से बहुत ही कम विजिबल है फेस, और इट इज वेरी डिफिकल्ट फॉर अस टू आइडेंटिफाई इट। ये सारी डिफिकल्टीज आती हैं जब भी हम एक ऐसी सिचुएशन में पढ़ते हैं जो टेररिज्म रिलेटेड हो, बॉम्बिंग रिलेटेड हो, सुसाइड बॉम्बर हो, या फिर आप कह सकते हैं नक्सलिस्ट थोड़ा अटैक हो, या फिर आपका कोई नेचुरल क्लेमिटी हो, जैसे अर्थक्वेक हो गया, या भी कोई डिजास्टर हो गया, जैसे कुछ कहीं पर बादल फट गया, या ऐसी चीजें हो रही है जिसकी वजह से लोगों को हार्म हो रहा है, जिसकी वजह से हम उनकी बॉडीज को पहचानने में डिफिकल्टी आ रही है। उस केस में हम ये सॉफ्टवेयर यूज करेंगे जिसका नाम है फेस फॉरेंसिक इमेज रिकॉग्निशन सूट। ये क्या करता है, एआई की टेक्नोलॉजी से हेल्प करता है, जिससे हम उसके फेस को या उसके टैटू के हिसाब से उस डेड बॉडीज की आइडेंटिफिकेशन करें। ये क्या करता है, 3000 कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स फेस में से निकालता है और उसको मैच करता है डेटाबेस से। अब डेटाबेस जो है वो हमारे पास ऑलरेडी एज ए लॉ एनफोर्समेंट ऑफिसर अपने पास वो डेटाबेस रखता है। अगर हमारे पास कोई डेड बॉडी का फेस आ गया, तो ये उसमें से क्या करता है, 3000 से ज्यादा कैरेक्टरिस्टिक, मोर देन 3000 कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स, तो ये उसमें से डिटेक्ट करता है। एंड उसके बाद इसकी एक न्यूमेरिक स्ट्रिंग बनाता है, जिसके बेस पे ये उसको डेटाबेस से मैच करता है। So any new face can be encoded also in the database of that software, and can be easily matched with the input string from that 3000 characteristics. Okay, so इसके return में क्या है, the return is a list of images above a user defined threshold in a match possibilities। इसका मतलब है कि जैसे आप यहाँ देख सकते हैं सामने कि एक फेस के हिसाब से ये उसके परसेंटेज दिखाता है कि हाँ, ये वाला फेस है, ये 99% मैच हो रहा है, ये वाला फेस है, ये 96% मैच हो रहा है, ये वाला फेस है, ये 39% मैच हो रहा है। तो हर एक केस में ये मैच की प्रोबेबिलिटी बताता है आपको, ताकि आप अपना डिसीजन ले पाए। ओके, तो बेसिकली यही है इसके अंदर, सॉफ्टवेयर के अंदर, F2 के अंदर यही है कि जो डिफिकल्टी आती है, अब जैसे क्लोज्ड आई है, आंखें बंद हैं, तो उस केस में क्या करता है ये, आप अपने हिसाब से कर्सर जो है वो आपको एजिस के पास रखना है, थोड़ा आप कंट्रास्ट है जो आप बढ़ा सकते हो। अगर आपको आई वॉल्स जो है विजिबल नहीं हो रही, तो उसके रिकॉग्निशन के लिए आप इसको डिग्रेड कर सकते हो सॉफ्टवेयर को। कैरेक्टरिस्टिक जो है इसकी न्यूमरस है, लेकिन ये क्या करता है, आपके फेस की कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स का एक स्ट्रिंग बनाएगा, उस स्ट्रिंग्स के हिसाब से फेस को आइडेंटिफाई करके डेटाबेस में जो डेटा है, जो हमारी इमेजेस है उसके साथ मैच करेगा और आपको प्रेजेंट कर देगा। तो इसलिए हम इसमें जो है, जैसे एक पार्शियल फेस मैचिंग है, तो पार्शियल फेस मैचिंग में भी हम आईबॉल सेट करेंगे और उसके हिसाब से हम इक्वी डिस्टेंस के हिसाब से हम उसके कैरेक्टरिस्टिक्स को रीड करेंगे, उसके हिसाब से हम इसको डेटाबेस के साथ मैच करेंगे। तो ये हमारा फेस फॉरेंसिक्स का जो है वो सॉफ्टवेयर है, हाईली एडवांस्ड है। तो इसलिए क्या होता है कि जैसे कोई वीडियो स्ट्रीमिंग हो रही है, उसके अंदर से भी ये फेसेस रिकॉग्नाइज कर सकता है और आपके डेटाबेस के साथ मैच परसेंटेज ये बता देगा। तो ये जो सूट है, ये कंप्लीट सूट है फॉर पार्शियल, फुल, डेड बॉडी, टैटू, सीन मैचिंग, उसके हिसाब से आप डेटाबेस में से मैचेस कर सकते हो। अब ये क्या करता है, जैसे मान लीजिए इफ यू पुट अ सिंगल फोटो in the grid of that, like person matching, okay, आप देख सकते हैं पर्सन मैचिंग का खुला हुआ है सामने। तो ये क्या करता है कि ये सिंगल फोटो को परसेंटेज के हिसाब से मैच करके आपको बता देगा, जैसे मैंने आपको बताया था। तो अगर उसकी हमारे पास 10 से ज्यादा फोटो है, या 12-15 फोटो है, या 2-3 फोटो है, सारी आपको दिखा देगा। ये नहीं है कि सिंगल मैच करके दिखाएगा। मान लीजिए एक सिंगल मैच हो गई, लेकिन उस सिंगल बंदे की और क्या क्या फोटोज हैं डेटाबेस में, लाइक और फोटोज हो सकती हैं, जैसे जैसे उसकी कभी उसकी बियर्ड के साथ फोटो है, कभी उसकी क्लोज आई के साथ फोटो है, कभी कोई मार्क है उसके फेस पे, वो वाली फोटो है। तो सारी फोटो के साथ ही मैच करके आपको दिखा देगा। And from here, so I have Mr. Ian Rumar from Face Forensics. He's the CEO of Face Forensics Canada. They are world leaders in face forensic investigation. And over to you, Ian, for today's session that is based on face matching and tattoo matching for dead body identification. Okay, thank you.
Well, good morning. As Shaker said, my name is Ian Drummond. I'm CEO of Face Forensics, and I appreciate the opportunity to tell you this morning about the work we've done on identifying dead bodies in particular through various approaches. We've been involved in this area for over 20 years now, and during that time, inevitably, we received requests for different types of functionality. And there were three in particular that have influenced what I'm going to talk to you about today and our core strategy in this area. And the first is that we were awarded quite some years back a major contract by the National Crime Squad, now the National Crime Agency in London, and that pulled us out into various directions because they wanted to match faces, but they also wanted to match two-dimensional images, objects, scars, marks, tattoos, a fairly wide variety of different personal attributes. So we looked at the technology we developed up to that point, realized that it wasn't flexible enough to do this, and we effectively changed everything, went back to the drawing board and started to develop a new system from scratch. And that's the basis of what I'm going to show you today. It was extended by the second major development, which was that we received a request from a major Middle East government to identify suicide bombers after they'd blown themselves up, which led to a partial face recognition capability. And the third was with the International Red Cross, who had become increasingly concerned about the number of migrants that were trying to reach Europe, principally from North Africa and the Middle East. And of course, there were many deaths in that case. And the question was, well, when the bodies were recovered, who are they? So to address that question, we had to look at the different issues that happen with dead bodies compared to live bodies. And these include the eyes often being closed, the damage that can be done by propellers from other boats hitting the bodies, the further damage that can be done by marine life, and if the body's been in the water for a while, bloating, which of course changes the shape of the face. So we had to address all these issues. And the other issue that had to be addressed was that with any biometric, to identify someone, you have to have a database of, in this case, faces. And we were asked by the Red Cross in Paris to develop a solution for this. And they set up a system called Trace the Face, where families who were concerned about missing relatives could actually submit a photograph, and so that photograph could be matched against a photograph of the various corpses that had been retrieved. And in fact, I'm in discussions with the Red Cross at the moment about providing systems to do exactly this in the current Turkey Syria disaster area, with so many tens of thousands being killed there. So what I want to do is show you how it works. So let me just switch across to my share screen. I'll pick this up here. And what I'm going to do, actually, let's take that out of there for a second. What you're looking at here is actually quite a straightforward screen. It does three things. It connects to a database, and I'm not going to show you that because it's established. But what I can do is I can look at the individual faces in it. Now, these are images that we were given by the Los Angeles police. They're genuine criminals. And what happens here is that if you take this guy as an example, we've got 1,500 criminals in the database, and this guy's been arrested twice. Every time he's arrested, they take a photograph of him. So we end up with about 5,000 faces in total. And when we let's just move on a little bit here. When a face is captured, the first thing the system does is it picks out the eyes. Now, the eyes are very important because they are the only part of the face where really you get sharp contrast, clear lines, and so on. And so just about, I think, all face recognition systems use the eyes as the starting point, the anchor points around which all other measurements of the face are made. So that's the database side. On the left here, on the person tab there, we can drop in a face. Now I'm going to start into the blue area, and I'm going to start off by taking the face of a live person so that you can see how that works, and then we'll switch across to showing you the equivalent with a dead person. And so what I want to do, anyway, all right. So what I'm going to do is drop in just a live face here. And once again, you can see it immediately finds the eyes, marks them with crosses, takes the measurements, and saves all of that. And what I can do is click the Recognize button here, and it will immediately match the characteristics of that face against the 5,000 in the database. And it comes up with, well, actually it comes up with itself, but it also comes up with 4 other instances of this particular person having been arrested and having his mugshot, as they call it, taken. So that's the live face. Now, what I want to do now is to take the same face and simulate it being dead. And to do that, we airbrushed out the eyes themselves to create this. And if you look at that, and I'll just magnify it a bit, you can see that it's looked for the eyes. It hasn't been able to find them. It does actually find the eyebrows, and which are the darkest areas around, and it says, well, that's about as close as I think I can get to finding eyes, but of course it's got them wrong. So if we click the Recog button once again, it comes up with 3 people like that, none of whom are the correct person. Now, to fix that, we actually do 2 things. The first one is relatively straightforward. And remember, this is a forensics tool. We're not doing this in real time or anything. But what we can do is we can set the eye centers manually. I will just put that up to the, let's just do that again. Eye centers manually. Where are we? Set manually. Okay, I mark them with crosses. We click the recognize button, and immediately it comes up with 3 of the 4, or there's actually the 5th. So we come up with the correct responses there and 1 incorrect response. And the reason for the incorrect response is that those eye centers that I manually located are not quite as perfect as they could be. So, but it doesn't matter, because from an investigator's point of view, he's getting the match he's looking for just by looking at the thumbnail images that come up here. So that's the first thing. Now, what we can then do also is we can click on this and we can say the eyes are closed, tell it that the eyes are closed. Now, I mentioned earlier that the eyes are really important for face recognition, but they're not important if they're closed. So what we've done with F2 is we've allocated the different areas of the face, about 1600 actually, with values saying how important they are. So the eyes have been set at a very, very high, the highest possible value. Other areas are allocated values, and I'm going to show you some of them here. For instance, the side of the nose there has got a distinctive shape. Others are much vaguer. The cheekbone, you can actually see it due to the change in shading there, and obviously on the other side as well. But you can't see exactly where the cheekbone is, because it's not a precise thing anyway. So, but we will allocate some value to that. We don't allocate any value to hair because it's too easy to change. And also the chin line, because low value on the chin line, because the obviously you can have a beard or cut off the beard or whatever. So if we click on the eye closed option there, what F2 will do now is it will change all those values of the individual facial features in the way I've just described. And once again, if we go recog there, we've got the match. Well, we've got the matches, and funnily enough, the same guy does come up as well. But it increases this percentage match here, so there's a higher level of confidence that we're actually identifying the correct person. So that's fundamentally how this works. And this idea of changing the values for different areas on the face is really what makes F2 stand out from other face recognition systems in terms of its ability to identify dead people. So the question then would be asked, well, does this take a lot of skill to set up and use? And actually, it's quite straightforward, as long as you're set up with a database of dead people, without which you won't be able to make a match. And F2 actually maps onto the information it needs in that existing external database. So in the case of the Red Cross, they have this system called Trace the Face, and it holds all the photographs that have been sent in from families and so on, or indeed from the individual themselves, who, sitting in, having made it to Germany or wherever, they can enter a photograph of themselves. So that if their families look at the database online, then they can say, our son is living and he's made it and he's in Germany. So that's how the core system works there. And to set it up, all we really have to do is to tell F2 where the data it needs, the photograph, the name, other personal information, is in the database that's being searched. That's typically takes about 30 or 40 minutes to set up. And once you've done that, then you're in a position to try or to match faces. So it's actually quite straightforward. Now, normally, you wouldn't use it in the way I'm showing it to you here, because particularly with law enforcement, it's very common now to have an offender management system or booking system. And what you can do is, when the offender is photographed, we can check that photograph immediately against the database. In fact, if I go back to the database here, there's a compare button here, which shows for that particular guy, it just immediately shows who he is and what he looks like. So the booking officer can immediately confirm that. But if he's asked the person his name and he replied, "Well, my name is Mickey Mouse," then he can say, "No, we don't believe you're Mickey Mouse. We think you are." Sorry, we weren't given names when we were given these photographs, so we just put. That isn't visible there, but normally speaking, his face would come up, and you can say, "No, we know exactly who you are." So how accurate is it? Well, the accuracy, it's actually really very accurate, but it's dependent on it finding the eyes correctly. And once again, if you look at this image here, I hope you can see the crosses, which are exactly correctly placed in the middle of the eyeball. Now, in some cases, because of lighting, poor lighting and bright lights overhead and glasses, optical glasses, it will distort that, and the crosses may not be positioned exactly correctly, in which case you'll get a lower percentage. So 97, 91.4 here, whatever, will come down. So if that's the case, then using this approach of manually setting it, because you can see the crosses would be incorrect, can actually produce a better result than just taking a photograph, encoding it, and trying to match it itself. So it is accurate, but all face recognition systems are subject to bad shots, or, for example, somebody wearing sunglasses. If you can't see the eyes, then you can't mark them. So there are situations where this can really improve on just the photograph itself. You can combine it with other biometrics. Now, this capability, this F2 system, you're seeing an application here, but it's really mostly used for demonstrations like this, for testing and so on. The capabilities are available as a software development kit, which can be integrated into your booking application. So you would see the same functionality, but it would be controlled from within the application in a seamless fashion. So I suppose the next question would be, how do potential users know if it will work for them? And the obvious answer is, well, try it out for free, because we provide it for a period of time to do that, and you can try it with your own data and really see what value you can get out of it. There is one other capability that I wanted to show you, and it's to do with other biometrics, and in particular, we've been requested to develop the ability to match scars, marks, and tattoos. And tattoos are particularly suitable for this, because scars can be minimal, and marks can be minimal. You know, it can be a knife slash, or it can just be some small mole or whatever on the body. But tattoos tend to have a lot of detail, and I want to just give you one example of that. And to do that, I'm going to switch to a different database, and that database is the and then, so if I list to yes, okay. So in this case, it's a database of tattoos, and as before, you can scroll through them, and we can also match them. So I'm just going to give you one example here, and it's this one here. And let me try that again. Let's drop that in. There we are. And if I take that tattoo and I press the recognition button, then what comes up? Actually, two tattoos come up. This one is clearly an image of the same tattoo, because you can see like that blue area is that blue area and this blue area is that one, and so on. But it's rotated about 30 degrees. So it's not just finding exactly the same image, it's finding the same tattoo, but captured as a different image. So it actually while it's different, it can still be found. And interestingly, the third one, which is a false positive here, is an image of a tattoo, but it's clearly not the same one. And once again, from the investigator's point of view, they can look at that and immediately visually reject it, because it's just obviously not the same image. So this is quite a rare capability. In fact, there's only really two companies that provide this, ourselves and one other. And the reason for that is that with face recognition, the face is a predictable thing. It's a oval shape typically. It's got two eyes, pretty much where you expect them to be, and you can work from there and confident that if you can't find the eyes, then there's nothing you can do about it, and it may not be a face. Whereas in this instance, a tattoo can be of just about anything. And so it's a much more difficult thing to find, because when we look at that, that image, to search a database and say, do we have this one? You have to go through every tattoo, and you have to look at every part of every image in the database, because it could be it needn't be the same size, it could be over here someplace or whatever. So it's a huge amount of work, and therefore it is much more complex. But this is an example of how it works. And I'm just going to give you actually one other example here. And I like this one because tattoos tend to fade with time, and this is an example of a partial tattoo, in fact. And there's nothing much to really hang on to there. But nonetheless, if we press the record button, in the date now, the tattoo database has about 500 images in it, but as you can see, it does find the correct match there. Now, one thing I just want to come back to before we come to the end of the session, and that is that I didn't show you what happens with partial faces. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up the same image I found before. And what I'm going to do is, I mentioned suicide bombers. You could argue that this side of the face has been completely destroyed, but this face is usable. So we can just take that part of it. Whoopsie, sorry. And I can take a copy of it. And I can come out of here. Oops. There. And we can go back to the... I can change back from the tattoos to the Aristides, as I recall. Switch. And let me just get rid of what we've got here so I can clear that. And I can say to the system, this is a partial face, not a full face. So if I go into partial mode, the system will display this standard generic template of a face. And if I paste it in, there's the half face that we took. Now, as you'll see, it's a very different size to the template. So I can use the scroll wheel and the mouse to magnify that so that it matches the, let's just bring it down a little bit. It matches well onto the template, and it's still a little bit large, I think. One more. Okay, let's just try that. And then I can adjust the distance from the eyes from the center of the face so that it's as realistic as possible. And I can, on the template, I can bring the nose down to match the, try it again. It's not bad. So once we've set it like that, then I can set the eyes manually once again. Done that. Let me just try that. And once again, just from that facial part there, it comes up with 3 of the 4, and there's the 4th, records of that individual in the database. So that's how it works. The reason that nobody else offers this kind of capability is that, as I said, everybody focuses on face recognition as a complete entity where both eyes are visible. And whereas here you can work with just one eye, and in one memorable case, this was demonstrated to the Hong Kong police quite some time back, and it worked just with the demonstrator's chin or mouth area. So it can do that. I don't particularly like to encourage that because it doesn't have very much. It doesn't really have enough information to work with, but it's sometimes worth a try. So that's what we do. Those are the capabilities, and I just want to say that I appreciate the opportunity to demonstrate them to you. I think it's different to something you'll be used to, but I know that we'll take questions and we'll provide answers as soon as possible. Anyway, thank you very much.
Thank you, Ian, for that wonderful session. That we'll learn a lot of new things in recognizing a face. From face, we can recognize the dead bodies from that cases that happened in a terrorism attack or any Naxal attack or any natural calamity. That face matching, that tattoo matching is a very bit difficult for our law enforcement agencies. Thank you for your session. Now I will ask the participant if they have any questions, they can ask me. I will try to answer it with all my capabilities. So I will stop the presentation, and now if anyone has any questions, can ask me. Okay, that's it. Thank you. We have shared the feedback form of this Forensic Friday in the chat session. If anybody have any questions, can ask in that feedback form also. So thank you, Ian, and everybody for attending this Face Forensics Forensic Friday session.